Well, welcome to everyone. This December 9th, 2025 for the Tapper and HamSCI technical session. My name is Dave, KV0S, and this week I've been playing with K9Q radio and multicast. And as I was talking with Phil just a minute ago, I'm learning lots of things. So anyway, next on the list is Nathaniel, W2NAF. Go ahead.
Thanks, Dave. I am just trying to, we are now in the final exam week, so I'm trying to wrap up the semester. I met with Jonathan Rizzo last Friday to go over VLF logistics, which I'm sure he will talk about. I think those are going smoothly. Emma Moran is continuing to work on documenting the RX888 system for setup. I think that's going along well. And then we're getting ready for going to AGU this coming Saturday. I'm leaving, so I'll be gone Saturday. I'll come back Wednesday, and Robinette's going to be there, and so will a number of other people from the HamSCI project. So very exciting. Christina Collins will be there, Bill Engelke will be there, and others. I will not be on the Zoom call. I'm not planning on being on the Zoom call next week, so looking forward to it though. All right, back to net.
Okay. Next on the list is Dave, KD0EAG. Go ahead.
Really nothing to report here at all. I've been working on local things. So, nothing to say. Back to y'all.
Okay. Next on the list is Dave H, W6OQ. Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, okay. Nothing really to report here either. Just hanging out here to see what I can learn.
Next on the list is another Dave, Dave Julian, WB9YIG. Go ahead, Dave.
Oh, good evening, folks. Not much going on. Just got back from the weekend down visiting my daughter in Dallas. First time I saw her since COVID, so it was a great weekend. Had a good time. Back to the net.
Very good. Nice to see your family. Next on the list is David McGaw. Go ahead, David.
I'm actually driving, so I'm going to pass for now. I'll let you know when I get the fix.
Okay, well, you be safe. Next on the list is Jay Schwartz, WB8 SBI.
Yeah, good evening, everybody. Haven't been able to check in for the past several weeks here. A lot of stuff going on. Unfortunately, I missed the Radio Club of America meeting in Washington, D.C., where Nathaniel, I understand you were on the program. So sorry I missed that. Hopefully you had, it was a good meeting there. I had a death in the family just a few days before I was due to start traveling. So that canceled that trip. Otherwise, nothing really new here, ham radio wise, just getting ready for the holidays here. And that's about all that's going on here in Southeast Michigan. So with that, 7-3 to everybody. Catch you later on down the log. Back to net control.
Okay. Next on the list is Jonathan, KC3EEY. Go ahead, Jonathan.
Hi, everybody. I had quite a busy week. As Nathaniel said, I met with him on Friday, and we discussed various logistics. I wrote out a list of pretty much every high-level task that I could think of for the VLF project, and it was actually quite a list. Um, but we went through everything and we definitely made some progress. And things are actually running quite well. I'm happy to say that soon I'll be assembling the VLF interface board. And I'm also working on the end panels for the case. So once that's done, and I was talking about this with my colleague today, is that this this would represent a pretty big milestone in the project, because that would mean that the hardware design is all done, and we're into the testing phase, and I'm expecting everything to work as it should. And if that were to be the case, then that would be quite a big milestone in the project, that we finally have hardware working, tested and vetted hardware that we could easily reproduce and build, that anybody could build with sufficient documentation, and can assemble one of these systems at their location if they want to. So the next steps is I'm going to be testing everything at Nathaniel's house. I'm just going to install the antenna and the VLF interface board, and that's going to run for a little bit, and I'm going to see how well that works, which it should work fine, as this was a previously tested design, but I wanted to test the boards and the new system configuration. And so and then I'm going to be looking for a volunteer, because what I want to do is I want to have someone else install one of these systems at their location, at least one person to put in one of these systems, and to see if these are actually truly reproducible systems like the grape systems have been. So that's what I will be looking for. If anyone is interested, please let me know, and we will get you set up when the time comes. That's all I have for now. Back to the net.
Okay. Next on the list is Christina Collins, KD8OXT. Go ahead.
Thanks, Dave. Hi, everybody. I had a good meeting with Emma Moran earlier about documentation things. I'm putting together for the MacGyver sessions, I'm putting together a basic template repository for hardware documentation. So I think we're going to use that as our basis for RX888 documentation things. She and I are looking forward to checking in on that in January, and I think we'll have some good conversations about it next week. And Nathaniel, I was wondering if you have a little time tomorrow morning to talk about science traceability matrix stuff as I put my finishing touches on my talk. So that's what's going on here, and I may duck out a little early because I've got an NSF review I got to finish. So that's what I've been up to. Back to net.
Okay.
Quick question, Christina, for tomorrow morning. Yes, I'll work, but can I text you to as we get closer to a time?
Yes.
Because I've got to drop off a car and get repaired and move to campus and things like that. So
sounds great. Good luck.
I'll text you as I figure out. But yes, I will add you to my agenda tomorrow.
Appreciate it.
Okay. Next on the list is Michael Howen, AC0G. Go ahead, Michael.
Good evening, everybody. I've been busy working on the same stuff I was working on last week, so hopefully making some progress, and talking with Rob about how to make this useful for the Whisper Demon side of things as well. And Rob has been busy with the servers and trying to get me up to speed on how to arrange that stuff as well. That's all. Back to Nick.
Okay. Next on the list is Phil Karn, K9Q. Go ahead, Phil.
Hey guys, let's see what we've been doing the main thing I've been working on lately is revamping the wideband spectrum analyzer code in K9Q radio on Radio D. And it's working pretty well now. It used to be a real CPU pig, and now it runs much faster. In fact, it's more efficient the wider you go, which is good. And also it now uses the sampling window, so you see a lot less spectrum leakage. So all around, it's been a lot better. The only problem is the reason I get the efficiency is because I'm covering very little of the input stream. I only sample small pieces of it when you ask for it, and this has created a problem for one of my users. Um, Mark Jessup in Australia, who maintains the Radioson tracking package. He uses my code to go looking for signals, detect them, and he's averaging over longer periods of time. So that's a problem I'm still working on. I think I can do it for him without really adding a lot of CPU loading to the code. So anyway, things continue to progress, and I'm sitting there waiting for the CME to hit later tonight and see if my station up in Ellesmere Island goes deaf again. Back to you, Dave.
Very good. Next on the list is Scott Newell in 5TNL. Go ahead, Scott.
Hey, big thanks this week to Michael, Paul, Rob, Phil, and Dave Swartz for their advice and patience. Rob let me play around on the new WWV2 site with Paul's timing injector, and that was a lot of fun. And let's see, this week I learned that the WWVH transmitter delays are not all the same. Phil knows why. And more importantly, I
And
learned
you
that
know why,
16.
right?
You told me, yes. Plate modulation. And more importantly, I learned that 16,000 does not divide by 1,500 nicely. So that's it for me. Back to net.
Very good. It's amazing what you learn when you dig into stuff. Next on the list is Tom McDermott in 5EG. Go ahead, Tom.
Oh, good evening, Dave, and everyone in the group. It's been a busy week. I'm still working on the quad receiver. Found a posting on the Infineon website, our community message board. Someone who's trying to do something similar. They have a LVDS sensor and no FPGA, which is kind of what we're trying to do, quad ADC and no FPGA. And the response got back was that won't work. And so I've been trying to dig into why it won't work. And each time I think I find a roadblock, I find a way around it. And have gone through about 4 or 5 issues and think I've cleared each one out. It's difficult sometimes to parse the English language. So my current roadblock is the need to implement a control channel, and it has a parity bit in it. So you've got to send a string of ones and zeros that are 1 nanosecond in duration each. That's what the FPGA does. And we don't have an FPGA on that design currently. But the text says if you program the FX10 to support it. So does that mean you don't need parity? Does that mean you don't need the control word? Does that mean you don't need any of this stuff? Still going through that. I posted follow-up questions on the Infineon site, and hopefully in a few days, maybe we'll get some clarification and understanding on what's going on. In the process, I found the register definitions for the FX10. They're not documented like you'd think. There's not a PDF or Word doc with all the registers and address and the bits and what they mean and what they do. But there is fairly well buried on the Infineon site a C API for the part. And that's pretty much as good. You get the address, you get what the bit fields mean. And so you can glean the same information out of that C API. I found that late Saturday night. Franco took a look at it and he thinks it's pretty good as well. So still working on it and keeping fingers crossed. Maybe we can clear off this one last issue and try and understand why we might have to use a FPGA so that we can emulate essentially a no-op on one channel. Back to the group.
Oh, fun. Uh, very good. Let's see. I think we've called on everybody. I don't see anybody that seems to have jumped in there. So, oh, Paul jumped in there. So go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, hi. I just jumped in. Sorry I'm late. Oh, not a ton of stuff. Been finally put the finishing touches on the AGU presentation and uploaded that. And thank you for your help, Nathaniel. Appreciate it. Um, the time sync stuff that we've been doing, well, I've been watching mainly what's going on at WWV. I don't know if we've had reports on that here yet. But anyway, really interesting progress is being made. And so I'm comfortable enough with what's happening there that I have I had a new board design just sort of just sitting on hold and decided it was time to launch that, have that sent out for fab. So I've done that. Just a few minor last minute checks and tweaks. And so by the by the new year, I should have some boards, I hope, or shortly after that we can send out elsewhere to for stations that want to try this. It will not require two bodnars, for example, just a single bodnar, and it should simplify the installation significantly. And it will also work as a transmit source should we decide. Well, I'm going to try it anyway to see if we can come up with a protocol or format that will be decodable, so we can try some time of flight measurements from stations that aren't WWV or VH or CHU. Anyway, we'll see where that goes, but that's a little bit way off. No serious progress on the X888. But I think fondly of it, and I'll get I'll get it done one of these days. Um, so I guess that's it for me, and look forward to seeing at least some of you in New Orleans. It should be um, yeah, really I'm looking forward to that. Okay, back to net.
Okay. Well, I think that's everybody, so we're open for general discussion.
Christina, can you just tell a little bit more about how the conversation went today about the documentation?
Yeah, so let's see. You said you sent an email to Emma a while back saying that the four things that you wanted to see documented were the RX888 module, the magnetometer, the VLF module, and the whisper sonde. And so our general plan is to try and get everything into Hardware X papers. So we're already 25% of the way there because the magnetometer has one. And so our next target is to do that for the RX888.
Okay.
And there's some documentation around, right? But we're gonna try and collect everything into one GitHub repository. And I'm gonna design the GitHub repository first based off of the Hardware X template, just to make sure
Okay.
that everything is being checked off. And I think it'll be helpful to have kind of, a cross section of like the folks who have done a lot of stuff with it, people who have, used one or two before, and then Emma is new to it, which is good because she can look at the whole process with fresh eyes and be like, oh, that doesn't make sense. And they'll be like, oh, we should write that down.
Okay.
So that's going to be the plan for that. I think we'll do the RX888 first. And then I don't know where things are at with the other two, the VLF module and the whisper sonde. I'm not quite as plugged into long-term strategy for how you want to handle those.
Well, I think that first strategy was to get the RX888 up on the wiki first and make sure that's kind of good, and then we use that as a model to say, okay, we want to get the VLF and we want to get the whisper sonde into similar types of formats.
Sounds good. Also, the github.io page is existent in skeleton form, but here's what that looks like. So it's possible to create a page now or set of pages for any HamSCI project that we want. Things on GitHub won't automatically have them unless we turn pages on, but that way your readmes can turn into sort of something somewhat wiki-like. I have not figured out how exactly the GitHub wiki factors in.
Okay.
But that's on our list of things.
Okay.
I think it's going to be the same information either way.
And one thing there's things I like and the things I don't like about the Hardware X papers. The things I like about it is that it's a nice published thing. The thing I don't like about it is that as the hardware evolves, the paper does not evolve with it. But I'm guessing with this particular technique, what we're aiming to do is we're aiming to get a publication out that will, be based off the wiki. And then after the publication is done, we can still continue to update the wiki to current information.
Yep, that's exactly the idea. That basically there's going to be some measure of pretty tightly, handled version control. Because we ran into some of this with Grape 1, and I think that if that project had been of a slightly larger scale, it would have become a problem, right? As it was, we were able to get away with the sort of widening distance between the Hardware X paper and the nature of the project itself. Because there were things like, for instance, the main mixer chip ceased to become available. And so it was like, okay, emailing John and getting one mailed to you is now like a step in this process. So things like that, right, are the wiki is like really good for. And so I'm planning on working with Emma to make sure that like the Hardware X is more of like a snapshot of what is on the GitHub version of the documentation. And then that's because we're going to talk through like the different things of what happens when these two diverge. Hardware X does not, at least as of right now, have any mechanism for updating. You're right about that. Software X actually does have one, but I don't know how often it gets used. So, however, that is something that if maybe we should talk to the editors and be like, have you considered doing update papers? You know, like a little letter type thing. Because I've never done one for Software X, but it's an interesting approach.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I just don't think, knowing how the academic peer review publication process works, I don't think that will ever be fast enough for the way we need documentation to work for this, for actually getting things out the door.
Agreed. It's only ever really going to be a save point.
So I think the Hardware X is I think it's a good thing to kind of get a good peer reviewed product out, make sure that's, the community likes it. And it's, I think it's really beneficial for our CVs and all that stuff. But I do think, we want to make sure the wiki is usable and really, really make sure that doesn't get lost.
Another question in that vein is, do you want in the future, to what extent do you intend to replace the RX888 as the hardware? And would you want it to cover that? Are we just doing a version that is the RX888 version of this? Or are we doing a version that's like the RX888 or comparable wideband SDR to be determined?
Right now, we're just doing the RX888 because that is the only viable one that we know is working and we support. I want this wiki, one of the things I want this wiki to do is basically say, these are the instructions how we're setting up the 25 of these systems that are going out, so that it's just, we have instructions that lets us replicate it 25 times for the purposes of the grant. And then also, for anyone else who wants to do the same thing we're doing, they can go do the same thing we're doing. But I don't want this thing to get scope creep into being like the general case or trying to be all things to all people. I don't want it to have, more detail than necessary. Things like Michael Howen's doing a great job doing detailed documentation for Whisper Demon, where you can go and look up all of the details on all the different arguments you can set. I don't want to replace that. I just want to say, hey, you're setting up, this is how you set up an RX888 for the HamSCI NSF funded personal space weather station project. And that's what I want this to be.
Okay.
Okay, at least in this iteration. Now in the future, once all of these NSF ones are out the door, and once Paul Elliott gets his new TAPR-HamSCI, working, and Tom gets his TAPR-R888 to the fourth power working, then I think it'll make sense to expand the wiki. But I think for the moment, we only have one set of viable hardware, and we just need to make it straightforward to support our one set of viable hardware.
So one question that I have in this is, do you have a strong preference for the GitHub wiki versus GitHub pages? It sounds like you prefer the wiki, but what's the underlying thinking there?
I don't necessarily have a strong. So here's what I do have a strong preference for. I was originally thinking you put it into just regular GitHub, and you could create markdown files, and you could have it post to read the docs. Mm-hmm. And my thinking was that in this particular format, if anyone wanted to clone all of the documentation, you could just go git clone, and anyone anywhere could pull the entire source code down, and they could have their own local copy of it. And similarly, if they wanted to make any changes to it, they could go fork it, and then make changes and do a pull request, and we could merge it back in. Mm-hmm. And so those are some features that and the other thing about this particular form is, I think if you look at the way Sphinx works and Read the Docs works, if you want to convert it into HTML, there's a Sphinx generator that converts it to HTML. If you want to convert it to LaTeX, there's a Sphinx generator that converts everything to LaTeX. So it's kind of like this one base format that anyone can clone, anyone can put in whatever format they want. So that's what I really like about that. I don't know enough about GitHub pages or GitHub wiki to know that those meet those criteria or not. But those were the things that I liked about the markdown in the GitHub format.
Yeah, no, I think I'm just trying to figure out, because if it's pages, right, then it'll be inherently in subdirectories. And if it's in a wiki, it'll be inherently parallel pages, which I think can be, you can have subheadings, you can have things like that. It just sort of goes down to how do we want to arrange our information is kind of one question. And we don't need to answer it tonight. I think this will be like a longer pondering. Right. But one thing is, how do we arrange our information? And the other thing is, how do we most easily convert it to a web page? Because I have not used GitHub Wiki much. I've used GitHub Pages quite a bit more. For GitHub Wiki, I do know that you can clone it locally and you can do the same sorts of versioning that you would do, but I don't know how it fits in with the rest of the repository. So I'd like to figure that out before we 100% commit. However, it's going to be the same information whichever way we organize it, and it's going to be a very manageable amount of documentation for a while. So if we wanted to try the wiki and put it on there and prototype it there, and then we're actually we want to do pages, it will not take long to move it over, and vice versa. So either way, I think it'll be the same basic information set.
Yeah, I think that all sounds reasonable. I think it is going to take a little bit of kind of discussion and a little bit of prototyping and a little trial and error to really kind of figure out exactly what we want. Because I think, I think we've all come across, this is the thing we saw first. So there's a little bit of that, bias that I know. That's why I'm like, oh, I like the read the docs with the markdown because I'm familiar with that. But as I said, I also have those other underlying things where I really like the idea that someone can easily clone the whole thing, run Sphinx on it, translate it to a different, format, and so there's that.
Well, okay, so I guess I'm confused by the whole like run Sphinx on it, translate it to a different format part, because like that should be true for either, right?
I don't know. It might be.
Okay, we'll
That's
experiment.
why. Yeah, that's why I don't know. I only know how read the docs works, and I know how that one thing works because that's the thing I've played with.
Gotcha.
So I don't. The other things that may be true for those other things, but I don't know.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Well, fortunately, we'll be hanging out with a lot of open hardware people this week,
Yeah.
so we'll have a good opportunity to see how folks have been doing it across different disciplines as well.
As long as we're here talking about it, does anyone else on the call have any preferences or input?
Strong opinions, weak opinions.
Well,
no opinion. Yeah, it seems like, whatever we publish, I mean, as long as there's, even if that is a static publication, if there's a link in that back to the wiki, which we can update and expand, we're kind of covered regardless.
As long as we're good about updating it over time.
Well, I mean, that'd be the case for, no matter how we did it
Yeah.
or how you
Hope
did
so.
it.
Yep.
Yeah,
I
and
do
if
wanna-
anybody needs help with, some, publication regarding the Whisper Sound, of course, be happy to help.
Yeah. I do want it to be modular enough so that we can, say, okay, yeah, like Paul's the Whisper Sound person. We could pass it over to him and have him fill out the Whisper Sound, details. And, I had a meeting with Jonathan on Friday, and I said the same thing to Jonathan about VLF. We're creating this framework for the documentation. We're using the ARX 888 Whisper Daemon kind of as the first thing that we're putting into this framework. But we want to be able to just have a slot where someone who, like Jonathan, could look at the VLF page and be like, oh, I see what format this should go in, and we can just hand him the keys to that part of the website, and he can just write down what he feels like that needs to be written.
That sounds good. All right.
Now would this also coincide with the Hardware X paper for VLF, or is that something different?
So my goal is that there would be basically one Hardware X paper for each open source subsystem that we choose to document. So there'd be one for the RX 888 and one for the VLF. And my hope is that we'll have a repository template that we can put together that will cover all of the stuff that we would want and work for either one. And then we make one copy of that template and we do the RX 888 and we put together the Hardware X paper for the RX 888, and then make another copy of that template and do one for the VLF module. And it would have a checklist that would satisfy, everything in the Hardware X checklist and everything that is, our top priorities for people being able to reconstruct it. And then there would be, a GitHub repository, documentation, and everything would be, documented according to basically the basic set of needs. And then if we needed to go in and update the GitHub later, we could of course do that. But I'm hoping to put together something that can be a good sort of reasonably universal foundation for this type of open source hardware project. And I've got some drafts that are like almost ready to show you guys. They're not quite there yet.
Okay. All right. Yeah. In that case, well, so Nathaniel, what I had planned on doing in the near future was starting on the documentation regarding the bullet points that were in my list. Is that something that I should work with as a framework?
I think that's a good thing to start with. Maybe it's also good for you to, I hadn't really thought about putting this in the context of a Hardware X paper, but Christina does have a good point about it. it might be useful for you to learn about what goes into a hardware X paper. So you just at least know what that is and what it isn't. And then that can help you to, think about how you want to organize your documentation. I think Christina and I have one very specific goal for the documentation, and that is that I want people to be able to replicate, set up and replicate our system. That's what I want. When you go to our wiki, I want people to be able to do that. That is my only top priority. That's it. But I think the hardware X paper, if we can do it in such a way that we could put it into a journal format that could get reviewed, I think that is also good. And I think there are very compelling reasons to do that as well. And I can go over those if you want, but you could probably figure them out too. Here, I will just put the link in the chat, unless Christina already did, for what a hardware X paper, the guide to authors is. So there, it just posted it in there. Explains all the rules for a hardware X paper. So clearly, I would say if you start with the wiki, with just the idea that you want someone to be able to replicate your system. Start there, because that's going to be kind of the minimum viable thing. And then once we have that, then we can talk about taking that and actually putting it into a hardware X template. Because if you can see with the hardware X template, there has to be a lot more information, because it has to include things like, use cases, and you have to have an introduction. You have to really make sure all of your licensing is taken care of correctly, and we need to put in all the funding sources. And there's there's a million things that go into a hardware X paper that you have to worry about with a peer review publication that you don't have to worry about with a wiki page. So I think just read the hardware X paper, author info, and kind of keep it in the back of your mind, but focus on the wiki page.
Okay. All right. Because I remember when Christina published a hardware X paper for the Grape, I did read that, and I understood the flow and what was put in there and why. But I guess so. In this case, the hardware X paper is more like a academic type journal.
Yes.
Where I guess someone like it's an official way to write it down for the academic community, and my apologies, because this sort of arena is kind of new to me. So I do apologize for asking silly questions, but I just wanted to kind of understand the how it all works. So I'm gonna review the Grape hardware X paper again, just so I have a better idea. And then when the time comes, after the wiki page is mature, that's when we could think about utilizing the templates that Christina was talking about in putting together the paper pretty easily.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, anything you put together as documentation explaining how to use your system can pretty much be put into the hardware X paper. There's sort of two I would divide it into kind of two categories, right? There's the category of everything that something like a wiki or GitHub documentation covers, and
Right.
then there's the sections that have to do with context. And this is really helpful because I'm, like I said, I'm putting together this GitHub template, and I hadn't really thought about it in those terms, but I think that that's important. So I'm gonna separate those out when I make the template for like, are you planning on a Hardware X paper? If so, you should probably think about this context thing. If not, you can do a lighter version of that. But yeah, so for any documentation you write, don't worry too hard about where you're putting it or, you know, what format you're putting it in, although GitHub Markdown would be great either in a README or in a wiki or, you know, notes or anything on a web page, because we can reformat that, no problem. That'll go into mostly, there's 3 sections of the Hardware X template, and the section numbers are always the same, which is a very nice thing. So section 4 is like the bill of materials and the material costs and things like that. Section 5 is the assembly instructions. And then section 6 is the operation instructions. And then section 7, yeah, there you go. Build, operation, validation, and characterization. Mostly 4, 5, and 6 are the types of things that you're going to be writing in documentation for a user. And putting those into a paper from there is not that hard. And then, like, you know, when you build your BOM table, for example, you can use that as the basis. And so, like, from there, it's really pretty straightforward to write the other sections in this case, because we have already done a lot of explaining why we're doing what we're doing. You know, we have grant proposals that we can pull concepts from. We've got other papers, we've got literature reviews. Like, you know, there's projects for which figuring those out is an undone task. I don't think any of these are really one of those projects. So, but yeah, I find the documentation of the hardware itself to be sort of the trickier part, because there's often sort of like, I guess I'd call them unknown knowns, you know? There's like the things where, you know, of course you will screw this thing into this other piece, or of course you will expect to solder that, or of course you will have this tool on hand, and your user may not necessarily intuit that the way that you do. And so that's really where a lot of the growing pains of putting one of these together tend to be. So my goal also with like trying to start from like, let's do a GitHub template and then we can use it repeatedly. First of all, is to get the same thing in use. I'm going to do it through the MacGyver sessions. So have the same thing in use by multiple open source communities. But then also to like have something where we don't get to almost the end of this process and then go, oh shoot, we have to go and handle, you know, this other part. So
yeah, I think what I'm worried about with this right now, Christina, I'm worried. I think what we really need to get this system deployed right now is we really just need, you know, maybe section, like you said, section 4, the bill of materials summary, the build instructions, the operation instructions. But even some of this, like Jonathan, we definitely need this written up, but for the initial deployment, we just need the thing that says, okay, you've been shipped all of these things already. Like Jonathan's already done the work of building all of it, doing the design and everything like that. We need instructions on the website right away that just say, okay, here's how you install the thing. That's the first step, because, and we need it. So it's how Jonathan's going to set up and then how you get it out the door, because we need this wiki right now just to support getting these systems out there.
Well, that sounds good. So how about, here's the link to the wiki page right now for the VLF receiver, and maybe we can do a little bit of light outlining together.
That sounds good.
And actually we could probably use, I think we might be able to usefully split the difference. I think we could gather a little bit of inspiration from the way that the Hardware X template organizes stuff. Let's see.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, certainly the more that we can keep things under the same headings as a hardware X paper so that you can just copy paste from one into another, that's definitely easier. I don't want the initial users to get lost in a document where they're reading design files and looking at schematics and all they have to do is like take the take a one box out of another box and plug it into their computer.
This is understandable. All right, so we've got VLF receiver, and that seems to be a category, and then within that we've got what is.
You want to share your screen, Christina?
Yeah, I will do that. So let's see. I think it's probably best if I share my whole screen for this one, and then I can do the whole thing.
And I certainly do agree, like for the long term, so Jonathan's like VLF design really does get out there and properly documented, including all the design files and everything. Then the full paper is definitely the way to go.
Yep. So right now we've got sort of what is the VLF receiver. So I think we can probably borrow kind of the very high level things. So we've got hardware in context is their first one, and that kind of has this what is the VLF receiver fits under that. I think I can do like there's a way to comment things out in Markdown, right? Anybody remember how that works?
I don't remember, but
there totally is one. Anyways, so we've got hardware in context. I feel like it involves dashes. If anyone remembers, let me know. But
it's the same as an HTML comment. Is one way.
Oh, right. Oh man, I always
because you just embed.
I don't have those at fingertip level either.
Okay, it's just open bracket, exclamation point dash dash. Open.
Open. There we go.
Less than sign. There you go. And then to end the comment dash dash close tag. Yep, there you go. Hey, no bang at the end.
No bang at the end.
Yeah. There you go. You go out without a bang.
I'm doing something wrong. It doesn't seem to be. It should hide that, but oh well.
Well, when you hit preview, then it will hide it.
Okay. Oh, see? There we go.
There you go.
All right, cool. So we can use that. So we've kind of got like this hardware context would be sort of up here. So I'm just going to scooch that over. And we'll use these, we'll just do all the big headings and kind of, work things out that way. So then the next thing that they would have would be hardware description. And then this is like highlight the customization rather than the steps, etc. I don't think we need to worry quite as much about that one. The next thing that they would have would be design files. Design files summary. So there's like the table and everything, but that's all going to be handled by the GitHub. So we don't really need to worry about those. Bill of materials, etc. Okay, so then we get into the part that actually does matter. So build instructions. I'm gonna
see. This is where I wonder if it's a little different, Christina. For the build instructions, are the build instructions for someone who's receiving this system, where Jonathan puts a package together, Jonathan's built everything and puts a package together and sends it out? Are those build instructions going to be different from the ones in the Hardware X paper that says, here's how you actually like design, assemble the board? Is there going to be a difference?
Yes.
It's a good question depending on how much Jonathan's doing. So if the board, the first set of these, right, presumably are being manufactured and shipped out through HamSCI, but the ultimate goal would be, here's the open source design and somebody can order this board and build it themselves. What we had for the Grape, I think the most comparable part of this is there's a little paragraph in there that's like, by the way, you're going to need an antenna. Here's a citation to the ARRL antenna book. So if it's something like, I mean, what's let me ask this, Jonathan. What's sort of the set of steps that you have on your end for the assembly of like one of these kits, for lack of a better word?
Yeah. So for the kits, it will be install the active antenna outside, run the feed light inside, connect all of the what should we call them? Boxes, components,
Sub-assemblies?
components of the system.
Oh, for this we should definitely use a mermaid diagram.
Yeah, and then power on. And then there's like the software setup to configure network and HTML status page for all that stuff, and then there's going to be the calibration procedure, and then that's it. Yeah. Because also the plan was with the thin client PC that I'm using, I was going to image those, kind of like how the grapes are imaged, or with the SD card image.
And I think, I think maybe another way to think about this, what I'm trying to get at is maybe we actually need there should be one set of instructions for the person who's assembling the kit. So like let's pretend that Jonathan just wanted Majid or Emma to assemble this kit at Scranton, and he said, all right, here's all the parts, please kit it up and make the box and image everything. So I think there should be one set of instructions for the person putting the kit together, and then I think there should be another set of instructions for the person who's getting the kit and it has to install it in their house.
So I guess we would call those, well, if you say kit construction and kit assembly, it isn't clear which one is which.
Right.
But you know what? You see what I'm trying to get at. Let's see. There's almost like there's I don't want to say building the kit and assembling the kit. It's got the same problem. Need a thesaurus over here.
I
kit
guess
manufacture and kit assembly.
Yeah. Right. Yes.
Yeah.
Because the kit manufacturer, that would be like if somebody wanted to build a grape system for their own, they would get all the parts, order the board from OSH Park, populate it, test it, put everything together, load the software. That would be like if you're building all of my boards and putting everything all together, versus if you got like a pre-assembled like grape kit, kind of like how the grape digital RFs were.
So the section 5 and section 6 over here actually, I would say, kind of already do this because they've got like step-by-step instructions for the hardware, characterized design decisions, etc., right? And then operation instructions would kind of be like that set of things. So we can do like kind of the kit manufacture and kit assembly, and I think that for the purposes of the wiki, we don't actually need to talk about the first part, at least not yet.
Right.
Like we can just kind of leave that, commented out. So when we preview this, it looks something like that. So you've got install active antenna outside, run feed light inside, connect system components, power on, software setup, calibration procedure. And then I wonder if I can quickly get something started here. Oops. might be getting my syntax slightly wrong, in which case I'll come back later and fix it. Okay, it couldn't render it, but that at least will get things started. So, yeah, all right. I'll put this above. And then, Jonathan, are you familiar with Mermaid?
No.
Oh, okay. You are one of today's lucky 10,000. Let me find this. I think this is the... Here, we'll do try the editor. Start free. So this is, it's for flowcharts and various other diagrams, and so I can just, like, take this and copy it in. So you probably... I'll show some of the examples. You have the stuff over here, and then you can easily change things around. And so for anything where you've got a flowchart or arrows pointing from one thing to another, it's very useful for being able to just have it in code. And it'll just, you can just take this and you can stick it into GitHub Markdown. And you can do Git diagrams, you can do Gantt charts. Usually I just use flowcharts for stuff.
Yeah.
So I think for your thing, you're either going to want the flowchart diagram or the block diagram. At a quick look, do either of these look more useful than the other? We can always change it up later.
Can you click on the block diagram?
Here's the architecture one. They've got cloud, database, disk, server are some of the icons that they have. I don't know what else is available.
I'll definitely be using that one.
Okay.
Can you click on the block diagram? Because I don't think I saw that one.
Oh no, there isn't one really. There's just the there's a flow chart and then there's that. So I usually use the flow chart. Like you can see how it's got like laptop, iPhone, car.
Yeah.
And that's often how I will show like architectures of things because never mind, there is a block diagram. I stand corrected. Yeah, okay.
Oh,
that's what that one looks like.
It looks like that the code is JavaScript.
Yeah.
Oh, it is. Okay, never mind. Yeah.
So
this looks pretty simple.
It is.
I'll probably make at least a couple. And then instead of having to like normally I would make something like this in PowerPoint and then export a PNG, but this way it can be done with code and it'll be much cleaner and much better.
And edited.
Yeah.
And ported and all of those wonderful things. And you don't need to like rearrange your arrows. Wonderful little tool. So
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
so
thanks for showing me.
You're most welcome. All right, so I think does this cover kind of the outline of what we need to have in here is like the build instructions for the person receiving the kit, and then we'll have kind of the connecting the system components, put in some pictures.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm thinking we need. And I'm thinking that, as we actually go through the process of having someone assemble all of these things and then actually shipping them out to people, we use this documentation, and then as people find errors or, we're missing something, then we can go back and put it in. But my hope is that we're able to use this as a tool to help us get these kits put together, sent out to people, and we're able to get good feedback from the people who are receiving these things.
Sounds great. All right, well, let's I assume that Jonathan's already on here as a user on this repository, correct?
I'm not sure if he is, but we can certainly fix that now if he's not.
Yeah, let's do that, and then there will be a place to catch those thoughts. So, okay, where am I? Collaborators and teams. There we go. Stand by. I have to tell my phone what that number is. It really wants to know. There we go. All right. So there's Emma. Let's see, KC3.
MUMAN 100. EMUMAN 100. That's my username.
Yeah, I know. I'm really surprised.
Oh, that's because I think you're looking at people who are already added. Hit add. Yeah, now put it in there. I've gotten. There you are.
Is that you?
Yep, that's me.
Yeah, I've gotten bit by that same thing before.
Let me just check my email just to make sure that you didn't get like a duplicate account or something.
And then Nathaniel, I think we should probably put the PSWS developers team on here.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Alrighty. We'll give everybody right access. If we need to up that later, we can. And yeah, I think that'll help get things started.
Yeah, we have to figure out better how we want to organize who has access to what here. But yeah, I think having the PSWS developers team and being able to update that, and then I think that's a solid way to do it.
Sounds good.
While it's on my mind, I have one question relating to shipping out kits.
Yes.
I think that we're going to need some sort of a sticker, like an asset tag type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I was thinking about was using Copilot to make a nice logo, because I'm not good at that stuff. Since I already have, since the university has the Office license, I could use Copilot to hopefully make a decent looking logo, and then buy the proper Avery glossy label sheets and print out a bunch of labels, a bunch of stickers that will go on each piece of hardware.
I have a slight update to that. So I know Christina has feelings about using AI on logo to generate logos.
Yes.
And we do actually have employed by the university a graphics designer who has done a marvelous job of doing the logo for the ham radio station and the and also for the newsletter that we do. So
Mhm.
I think we can sketch something out and get her to do the logo. And I think one thing though, so I actually started working with her on a logo for the whole personal space weather station about a few months ago, at the end of the summer, I think. But I tried to sketch some things out. I just wasn't happy with what came out, and I haven't had time to think about it more. I really wanted to sit down and sketch out some more stuff. But if anyone wants to sketch out some designs, like if you want to sketch out some designs, or Christina, if you do, or if you do want to use AI to come up with some ideas, maybe we can all show them on this telecon and kind of vote or give input. And
I was gonna say, just do a contest.
Yeah.
What's the time scale on this? When do you need these by?
I'm hoping to. I want to get things shipped out, over this spring, over the summer.
So if we did a contest and announced the winner at the HamSCI workshop, would that be in line with your timeline, or do you want to?
What if we could do that? I mean, what if we? Do you want to manage the contest, Christina?
Sure, insofar as it'll be like, putting out an email.
I mean, yeah, if you want to manage the contest for a personal space weather station logo,
sure,
that sounds good.
That should give us one newsletter to get it in circulation about. We can show the different things. We can have a Google form and have people upload stuff, and
yeah. I think I think we should there should be some caveats to the contest. I think that the design, the winning design, may be used to maybe used as the basis for a professionally done design. We should have some editorial control after it's done, and kind of like you know how the contest Bodie McBoatface went?
I do.
Okay, yeah. So I think we're going to try to avoid a Bodie McBoatface sort of.
Yeah, I think for the Open Source Hardware Association, this one that I just dropped in, so this I think is the best way to do a logo. And if you look at the way that we did the MacGyver logo, we pulled this and we incorporated it into everything we were doing. So we just took this and we added some stripes and we changed the font a little bit. Because the whole idea was like, the point of it is adaptive reuse. But you'll also notice if you look at the like GitHub repository where they keep all of their stuff and they have like the Gerber files for it, right? Because being able to take this and put it on a PCB is also really nice. It is also like it's under a specific license, and they had a community contest for the logo design in 2011. I don't know if they voted or if like the central people picked one. I think we'll probably get enough that we could sort of do like a you know, a rank and yank or something like that. But I think having kind of, you know, getting a selection would probably not be a bad thing. And then it's like, okay, whatever gets selected, that person will have the you know, the authorship and pledge to release it under an open source license and use it for PSWS. But it'll be an attribution license so that they can keep their call sign in there. We ran into this with like the grape name last week where I was trying to figure out like, you know, okay, I want to make sure everybody who came up with that stuff is really credited. Because, you know, art contributions matter quite as much as
they do,
engineering
absolutely.
contributions. So
Absolutely. Can I show you my favorite recent space weather project logo?
yes.
Okay, this is my favorite one. It's from a project called Mage. The multi-scale atmosphere geospace environment, Mage, and they have a wizard, and the wizard's staff has the Earth with a magnetosphere around it.
Okay, that's pretty good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I really like that one.
Yeah.
So I don't know how we can do something like that that covers the personal space weather station that, you know, I like getting elements of radio in there. I like getting elements of the ionosphere in there and space weather, and how you get that all into a logo that can be, you know, put onto a PCB, you know, or, and also look good embroidered on a shirt or an asset tag sticker while also having all these really cool elements is tricky. So,
Well, I think I told you about how the MacGyver logo started out with like discussions about heraldry.
yes, I was watching some of those conversations go by.
Yeah, so we did actually create, I'll stick a link to it in the chat. I made a heraldic logo version for the MacGyver sessions because I wanted something that would be in the form of the Wikipedia heraldry stuff so that you could grab whatever elements you want and like make it into your own coat of arms, because there is a concept in heraldry called impalement, which is where you combine coats of arms. So like if two families join together and you get that split thing. So what we have here, right, this would be quartered Or and Ghouls, a Bend Sable Sinister is the colors. And then the gear is at Fest Point, and you describe this with this thing called blazonry, right, which is basically, it's 14th century postscript. So you would like say a bunch of words to somebody and they'd be like, oh yeah, I know that guy, you know? And that was how everybody would describe these. So there are generators online where you can be like, I want to type in this thing for the shield. But the reason I picked these colors is because the crest of Clan MacIver is the quartered Oran Ghouls with the black line, the Bend Sable, going the other way. And the reason for flipping it to Sinister, to the left facing, is first of all because I didn't want to use somebody's actual family crest, and second of all because the Bend Sinister is, there's sort of like not a lot of cases of this actually getting used outside of literature, but in literature the Bend Sinister indicates an illegitimate son, but also we're copyleft. And so we were able to like work all of those elements into like this one thing that, you know, if not this year, maybe next year it'll go on our challenge coins. But you know, there's a lot of possibilities for this stuff, and like I had a lot of fun putting this together. I have a friend who's like a big heraldry expert, and because we were doing it as like, you know, an art project that was built around remixing and not like, you know, just putting it into the AI or something, we had a lot more fun with the project. I think we came up with a better logo. So I'd like to, you know, I'd be happy to send out an email and make a little survey and encourage people to come up with something. I'll probably say like, what do you think? End of January, for a deadline?
That sounds good to me. Yeah,
Okay.
I think this sounds good because I did try getting some logo for the PSWS put together over the summer of the semester, and yeah, it just kind of fizzled out. So yeah, maybe this is a better approach than what I was doing.
Sounds good. And I think maybe the rule that I have will be like, you know, we don't want to use AI generated stuff, but if you'd like to do an AI rendering and we have it redrawn by a human artist, like that's an option. Like you don't have to provide full files, you provide an idea. And consider the many places that you might use it will be another thing I'll put in there. So
yeah,
awesome. All right, I'll get that set up and sent out.
Well, I think we've had quite a good discussion this evening.
Nathaniel, did you want to do like individual logos for each of the instruments, or just one logo to?
Well, I think that's, you know, so this is where a lot of these different things can come together, and I don't know. I think it'd be really nice if the personal space weather station had some sort of a unifying element. So maybe the different instruments do have their own like sub element or their own unique identity, but if there's something where like all the rings come together, you form Captain Personal Space Weather Station. I feel like there should be something that kind of unifies it. And the other thing I feel like that the logo would ideally incorporate is some way of recognizing all of the institutions, you know, that contribute to the different parts of it. And again, I don't know how all this is going to, but like I was imagining, you know, kind of having one logo in the middle and having rockers around the side where you have like Scranton, Case Western, NJIT, you know, all the different logos of the university. But so I don't, so I somehow I think we want something that kind of unifies everything, but also can recognize that there are different parts of it.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
See, because what I was going to do, it's actually really simple.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to do, I was going to take one of the spectrograms of one of the whistlers, and I wanted somebody or AI or someone to kind of take that spectrogram, edit it in such a way where you could pull out the Eckersley curve, and then there would be text next to it, HamSCI Whistler catcher.
Yeah.
Which is what I call the VLF system. It was something really simple, and then printing out stickers that I could put on the antenna and each of the pieces of hardware
and you know we could still do that for your there's no reason we can't do that.
Yeah.
Is it still okay to have like because I still wanted to use that name, Whistler Catcher.
I think it's a great name.
Agreed.
All right, good. Yeah, because that was like one of the that was kind of something that would kind of it would intrigue people when they saw it. So I wanted to kind of keep that in all of the VLF stuff, and then but the magnetometer and the HF system doesn't have their own name, or
Well,
whatever.
we've tried to have the HF system have its own name. It used to be called the Clement or the Tangerine.
Right.
That became the Clementine. And right now it's the RX888 Whisper Demon KA9Q radio system because we haven't come up with a more unified name for it. And we're trying to recognize that Phil has done the KA9Q radio and that Rob has done the Whisper Demon. But, perhaps when, perhaps we do need to find a different name, or perhaps when
I hate marketing. I hate finding names for things.
You just put your call sign on everything.
Yeah, I know. What else could I? I'm not very original.
But that's
okay.
I
also keep telling the KNIQ web guys they should think of a different name because I didn't write it. It runs on KNIQ radio, but they should take the credit for writing it and the blame.
So I don't know, but I mean the lack of a good name for the HF receiver, Jonathan, isn't an indication that we shouldn't have one. It's just that we don't have a good one yet.
No, sometimes some of the best names for things come from kids. Somebody should ask their kids for a name.
I can ask Anthony or Danielle's starting to talk. Danielle will be her favorite word. She's got two favorite words now. One is her first favorite word was uh-oh, and yesterday her second favorite word is now no. So
I don't know, but that would be a good name for anything. But I mean, the word Google was invented by a kid.
I was about to say that, yeah.
And then Google, the company, spelled it wrong. I always thought that was intentional so they could trademark, but apparently they actually did spell it wrong. They intended to write Googel, which is the mathematical spelling.
GOL.
Oh, well, you're correct. You're right. Yeah. You're right. You're correct.
I didn't realize that. I thought it was like convergent evolution. I knew that like Google, like somebody was like, I need a name for this insanely large number. What do you got, kid? And the kid was like, Google. And they were like, good enough, which mathematicians
It's
do.
cited by linguists as one of the very few words in English language that just sort of came out of nowhere instead of being adapted from another language.
Yeah, there's that.
And it's also shows up in pop culture, like The Simpsons going to the Googleplex theaters. Zillions of screens.
That's great.
Yeah. So
all right.
Yeah, so yeah, Jonathan, we have no issue with. We think it's a great idea to use the Whistler catcher name, and we have no issue with you creating your own asset tags for those. And I will be more than happy if you'd like to, see what the AI system does. But if you'd also like to have us go through our university graphics designer, we can have you iterate with her too, and come up with something for the Whistler catcher, which I think it might be nice getting her involved. And then I still would like some sort of unifying personal space weather station logo that somehow captures all of the instruments and all of the institutions, which is a challenging problem, while also being able to be screen printed onto PC boards, embroidered on shirts and hats, and put on the fronts of PowerPoint presentations.
Right.
So, there's a lot of things.
Well, ideally something that's simple to draw, etc., etc. You can see how heraldry wound up being like such a, such an effective answer to this problem.
Yeah.
They adopted conventional constraints. There's also things where like you're not allowed to put two metals next to each other because that was too hard to manufacture. So there's a whole bunch of design requirements in it. But I can see why that became so popular. And then you can see why universities adopted it in the United States. But yeah, we got a lot of options. I think the best way to do this is just going to be like, let a million flowers bloom, send in your ideas, we'll keep track of everything everybody suggests. Everybody agrees that we can use it with attribution, and we might combine some of it, and we'll make sure that the actual assets get handled once we've actually picked a concept. So
right. Yeah. Okay. Well, then, in that case, Nathaniel, could you put me in touch with the graphic designer, because I actually didn't know that that was a resource that I could use.
Yes.
But if so...
These are your overhead dollars at work.
Yes. Yes. Then in that case, that's a wonderful thing. And because it was something simple, and then when it's ready, the unifying personal space weather station logo could be added to it as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, when you get a chance, put me in
Yeah, I'll
touch.
just drop her an email tonight and I'll CC you on it, and then we'll go from there.
Okay, all right, that'll
We'll
work
figure
out.
out the whole schedule for that.
Hey guys,
Okay.
but before I go, I wanted to share something with you. My one attempt at marketing and logos and such. Here we go. See if that pops up. Hello. Okay. Looks like you guys, can you see it?
Yes.
Okay, Sarah, that was the company I helped start. 454 is the major box that I was kind of sort of architect, honestly more like a contractor than an architect, but anyway, I ran the engineering on that. Anyway, over here to the left, the revolutionary network element, that was kind of my doing. We needed a catchphrase, and that kind of supposed to be like a graffitied, spray painted R turning evolutionary into revolutionary. That was my that was my input, and it stuck. So we had a bunch of shirts and coffee cups and stuff like that with that spray painted red R right in the middle of it.
First,
So
looking at this, I
That's
have absolutely no idea what your product does.
excellent. Yeah, no, it's a secret. It was a fiber optic and wired T1, T3 multiplexer switch, transmultiplexer, Sonnet, synchronous optical network stuff. So it's a telecom, but we also had,
Why not say
and
so?
I'm sorry.
Why not say so? Then I
Yeah,
would know what you've got, you know.
yeah, and
I'm walking
nah.
past this in a trade show. I don't know what you guys do.
Oh, we would tell you. We would grab
Well,
you,
I know that's the
throw
problem.
you to
As
the
soon as you
floor,
approach, as soon as you
tell you.
approach, just to find out what they have, you know, they've
Um,
got you. So
Phil, when this happened, I'll take the screen down. Uh, at this point, anybody in the industry knew who we were. We had just been acquired by Cisco for an obscene amount of money, and we were selling. We had honestly disrupted a that portion, the portion of the market and industry that we were designed for. We were really upending things, so it was a big deal among those people that know at the time. Now it's more of a footnote, I guess, although there are enough of those boxes sold to, I don't know, reach halfway to the moon or something like that. It's pretty crazy. Okay, so that's my history. And I was not in that picture. Those are all sales and marketing guys and look like victims that are being explained
What was
to what we do.
Paul? What was the Cisco product that this?
14 1454, the ONS something 1454. They renamed it. We had that cool kind of colorful front panel on it, and they turned it into a gray panel. And then they took the ICs and the architecture out of it, and then and software, and stuck that into a number of new products, but basically based on the Sarent architecture. So yeah, we had 10 gigabit optical interfaces all the way down to 1.544 megahertz wired interfaces, and we could basically groom one, a little stream out, and we also had Ethernet, gigabit Ethernet, and 100 base T and all that. So it was definitely a transition product as the telecom and the datacom networks were converging. So right place at the right time, that's for sure.
Wow,
Real quick,
nice.
let me show you guys a little art piece. I don't know if you can see it. Let me know if I need to move the camera up or down. This was one that David and I, when we were teaching electromagnetic fields, let me see if that's in there. There it is. We gave the students an assignment to make an art piece inspired by the class. And so this was a colored pencil drawing one of our students did. These are the Venus flytraps on Venus. So you can see the Earth and the magnetosphere. And this was because she read an article for class about Venus flytraps and electromagnetic fields. So, I think once we put the call out, I think we'll get some good stuff. And anything that doesn't work for a shirt or a mug or a PCB can work for a QSL card. So
we
true.
We had fishing lures, spoon lures with the Sarant logo on them, so it could go anywhere.
It's true. It's true. So
Dilbert
is never wasted.
Dilbert taught me, before Scott Adams went nuts, that engineers and marketers are natural enemies, and that certainly has been my impression all along. But I'll also admit that I could use their help once in a while.
I used to feel that way, engineers, marketers, salespeople. Well, yeah, salesmen are the scum of the earth, but damn, the good ones are just really good. They actually treat
if
the
they're working
customers
for
well.
you, then
Yeah. So, I ended up really getting along with our sales and marketing guys, and I kind of became the pet engineer for Cisco's business development stuff. So I got to meet all types, not just engineers in the trenches, and it kind of opened my eyes. They're not all assholes, apparently.
Well, I mean, you've seen the same Dilbert strips I have. The
yeah.
marketers that go out there and promise things to violate the laws of physics, and then blame the engineers for not being able to do it. That kind of stuff.
Yeah, no, our guys, they came from the industry, actually. I mean, a lot of them were engineers, and then kind of became sales engineers. So anyway, but I've certainly run into plenty of that. I wouldn't.
They
a lot of
commit you to
things I wouldn't do if they were
like
on fire.
Impossible or ridiculous. So it's natural for the engineers to resent them sometimes.
Yeah.
But I'll concede that they're necessary and they have skills that I don't have.
I agree with that. Christina, what are you holding up there?
This is the art book from James Dean, who was the head of the NASA art program. Here's where he signed it for me after he spent like an hour walking me through all of this and telling me about all of the insane stories. But part of the budget during the Apollo era was devoted to hiring artists to depict it.
Yes.
And he was in charge of herding all the cats. So let's see if I can find like these.
I think there's a whole section.
Everything in here is killer, but like I'm looking specific. Oh, here we go. Norman Rockwell.
Huh.
He and I were talking about it. He was like, I think I'm probably the only person on the face of the earth who ever had Norman Rockwell and Deke Slayton pissed off at me at the same time. because Norman Rockwell wanted to like borrow the suits, right, so that he could use it for this rendering, and then also like this is like a cameo by this one technician who was like really helpful to him. So he was like, "You're cool. I'm going to put you in the painting," But this all became like the image of this stuff, and it's like the different styles are completely wild, and like the murals at the Smithsonian came out of this. Just all kinds of different. I was just going to mention the
Smithsonian. Yeah, they have all.
Yeah, Eric Sloan and Robert McCall. I have a whole Robert McCall book over there too. That's one of my favorite paintings. Period.
I don't remember.
Apollo Soyuz is my favorite phys.
Did Bonestall do any NASA work? I think I did early. I know. But...
Yeah, Chesley Bonestall. I think. I feel like he's got one in here. He basically invented it, but he would have also been like the very beginning of like all of this. But like there's names that you'll recognize for reasons that have nothing to do with space is the other thing. Oh, this was funny. So I was on the open space call last month, and the guy who painted this, Dennis Davidson, this is called View of Earth. This is 5 72 by 20-inch panels. And I was like, hey man, I have, one of your paintings in this book. Cause like, he was talking to the planetarium manager at AMNH, Micah, who was like pulling stuff out because he was like, yeah, so I've taken over this office and I found a bunch of your stuff and like I really like this one and I want to put it in the conference room, but I understand if you want it back. And he's like, oh no, that's okay, you keep it. Yeah, I really like this one and I want to put it in a conference room, but it's okay if you want it back. Like that kept happening like 5 times. Every one of these things is just fantastic. So anyway, I showed him this. And he was like, NASA hung that up wrong. The panels are supposed to be separated by 6 inches. This is supposed to be a smooth line like windows. you know, and he was like, I can't believe they put it in the book like that. So I've at least put a note here so it's recorded someplace that's hung up wrong at Kennedy.
Bit
So
of history.
anyways, but yeah, I'm a sucker for space art. There's a great movie about Chesley Bonestell out, where they talk about all that stuff, and he did basically the first piece of space art. It's a view of Saturn from Titan, and he also did a lot of like matte paintings for the backdrops of movies. Here's another Rockwell you all will have seen, if you remember that one. Yep. And what he was doing was really taking the principles of the Hudson River School, which is where you have like the big imposing landscape, and then there's tiny little people in the foreground so that you see how big and imposing it is. And he just took that and like made that be in space. So, but yeah, he pretty much started space art, and that was kind of what inspired this whole thing. And by the time I met James Dean, he was doing paintings of lighthouses in Maine, and he had no space art in his gallery whatsoever. He told me I could stand and never look at another gantry again. And I was like, well, lighthouses are a little bit like gantries, man. But, you know, he was willing to go through it and be like, oh, yeah, I remember when, like, she overstayed her badge, and then I had to come collect her from the guardhouse, and she was sketching all the guards, you know. Just, like, the amount of nonsense he had to put up with. His obit in the New York Times is also really good. They get into some of those adventures, not all of them. But anyways, great book. So I will.
Massive public affairs in those days was really good.
They were good, and they had resources. You know, now they.
And you realize that when you see how badly other space agencies handle things.
Yeah, yeah.
Can't get any information at all. You know,
it's true. Yeah, and the amount of stuff where things happen now and they don't talk about it, you know. And part of it was that, like, there was a willingness to throw resources at things that no longer is there. And you can only get a corpus like this if you're able to really kind of throw some resources at it. Mm-hmm. So
it was a heroic feeling time. I mean, I've got somewhere in my barn here, I think, an elementary school project I did, you know, John Glenn and, you know, just, and his, you know, his 3 orbits, I think it was. Mm-hmm. You know, just, we grew up with that. And for me, you know, it wasn't so much about, you know, nuclear apocalypse and beating the Russians, really. It was really cool getting people in space.
Well, Apollo was when I was in junior high and high school, and I wanted to become an engineer because of it. And I felt like, God, we can do anything if we want to, if it doesn't violate the laws of physics.
Hey, we still
work
can.
hard enough, you know.
We still can. Come on.
It's true. That's true.
Well, it's easier. I'm not quite as heady these days, but I'm also a lot older, so.
And some of it is the shift in the leadership style at NASA too. One of the things that I feel pretty strongly
I'm talking about more broader than that, Christine. I'm talking about the world in general.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. I mean, it's like we have all these solutions, but the mechanism to get them implemented is broken. That's the problem. That's the frustrating part for an engineer.
Okay, yeah. But I don't know if it boils down to it, but it's so crucial that we get younger people involved, and that's why I thank you, Nathaniel and Christina, for what you're doing. I mean, it is so important and so inspiring. I mean, that's inspiration. I mean, I wouldn't have done what I did or what I'm doing if I didn't just find it incredibly exciting. And even now, and so instilling that or finding that, discovering that in younger people in particular, because, you know, us old guys, either we have it or we don't. But I think being able to bring it out, let the young people discover it in themselves, is just so powerful and important.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
All right. Well, Jonathan, thank you for getting us started on a discussion about art.
Yes.
I think.
Yes, that was very good.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to putting out a call for this and seeing what comes back. I think it'll be nice to see this side of our community. So
yeah, I think this is great, Christina. And Christina, thank you for being willing to take the lead on organizing this.
Yeah, for sure. I think it'll be fun. All right. Sounds great. What time should I expect to talk to you tomorrow? Like time range?
I'm thinking sometime between 10 a.m. and noon, I'm thinking.
Perfect. That's perfect.
Good night, guys.
All right.
I'm gonna aim for like 10 a.m., I think.
Awesome.
That's gonna be my target time.
Cool. All right, that's what
Okay.
I'll plan on too then. Good night, everybody.
Thank you.
7-3.
7-3, everyone. Have
Bye-bye.
a great night. Bye.